law forces Steam to disclose we don't own games. I, for one, think that this is a good thing. That means since we don't own the games and we're just licensing them, that they should be cheaper now. Somebody beat me to that line. Since we are licensing games now instead of purchasing, that means prices should drop by 80% now. No rental or licensed product costs full price. I agree. Is that what's going to happen? I don't think so. From Yong Ya. New law forces Steam to disclose we don't own purchased games. GOG takes shots. I might be switching to GOG after this, because at least I get to keep the file.
So about 2 weeks ago, I released a video discussing a new law that was recently passed in California that tries to tackle issues surrounding digital ownership and the way companies are selling you these products as if you are buying and purchasing them, which suggests a permanent semblance of ownership, or at the very least, a permanent semblance of access. But we all know, or people who follow gaming and who follow how digital products actually work, we know that we're ultimately just licensing them. It's just long-term renting before, I don't know, licenses expire or before services shut down, at which point those digital products can be stripped from us. It can be taken away.
Games cost a lot of money to produce. They cost a whole lot of money to produce. No, they don't. No, they don't. And we shouldn't be paying $70 for games that aren't physical, because people argue that, oh, it only costs about $2.50, $3 to make a PS2 to make a PS2 case. Yeah, but that's also not factoring in the shipment of the games, the putting them in stores, with paying the stores, because the stores get a little bit of money from that. The manufacturing costs of the factories, all of the licensing that goes into the cases and all of that. To have your the actual name Xbox on your case, which I don't think it's like that anymore, obviously, because nobody really buys physical games anymore. So why are they so expensive? And why are they spending so much money on these games when obviously they're failing and it's the smaller companies who are winning because they're making good games? I'll buy a good game for $70. I'm not buying a mediocre game for $70. That's why I haven't been buying games recently, especially when they first come out. $70 for a football game? No, thank you.
Without questions asked, without refunds. And that is just a future that many of us don't particularly are all about. And so this new law begins to tackle those issues by, at the very least, starting to force companies to disclose that you are not actually buying and owning the digital purchases you make. So right here, The Verge reported California's new law forces digital stores to admit you're just licensing content, not buying it. The law comes into effect next year. It's actually been passed, and it's meant to combat disappearing purchases of digital games, movies, music, and ebooks. So storefronts can no longer have...
How is that going to combat it? That just seems like it's going to be worse. Because now they're just going to outright tell you, like, hey, this thing that you buy, it could go away at any time. Now we just have to tell you that it does. And how are we still gonna know? If every game has to have this label on it, we're still not gonna know. Because, like, sure, Steam's great, and it's gonna be around probably forever. Who knows? But Steam's not who we're worried about here. It's companies like Ubisoft or EA that want to shut down a game that's only been around for like 5-6 years, or even 1 year, 2 years, that you really enjoy, but it's just not making them enough money off of them microtransactions. So they gotta shut it down.
Terminologies like buy or purchase when you click the button to buy a digital product, unless they inform customers that they're not getting unrestricted access to whatever they're buying. Storefronts will have to tell customers they're getting a license that can be revoked, and companies who break that rule could be fined for false advertising. And all this came about because of...
And how will they be getting revoked? What rules are going to stipulate them getting revoked? Like, can it be revoked for hate speech? Could I be saying some hateful things online? Hateful things online? Some things that people don't like? And they just take the license from me? What are the protections on these licenses? I need to know this. If now we're all of a sudden licensing games instead of buying them.
All of the online discussions following the disappearance of games like The Crew, which is not only disappearing from storefronts, but being fully deleted from players' libraries, reminding us we own nothing, as Engadget says here, aptly so, which kickstarted the whole Stop Killing Games movement, which has gained quite a bit of traction with hundreds of thousands of signatures for the petitions and the like. There's also Sony, who recently tried to delete media from players' libraries, specifically
I think they need to make a law that if you're going to delete your game, that you need to make it open to the public. Like, you give up that license, you give up everyone licensing your game, you give up the license, in my opinion. It's just like if you're not protecting your copyright. They pull a game away from players that meant a lot to their lives, a lot of them, and you're not going to do anything with it except kill it and make people sad, then guess what? It gets free to the public. That's what I think.
They eventually had to pull back on that when on December 21st, 2023, they announced that the content removal plan is no longer occurring. Apparently, they found a way to update licensing arrangements, but the fact that possibility was there is already kind of not great. And also, once upon a time, Sony did at one point successfully remove media from users' libraries when back in 2022.
And this isn't even a video game. That's what I'm talking about. They can remove anything for any reason. Something that you think you got, that you paid for, it's not really yours. So why are we paying full price for this shit? Because if we don't pay full price, then they're just gonna feed it to us on apps like Play Store and Game Pass, which guess what is happening? People aren't buying Xbox games, so they're making a Play Store full of mobile games.
The PlayStation Store removed purchased movies from libraries after service shutdown, with this particular instance affecting regions like Germany and Austria. Let's not forget the shutdown of Funimation after Crunchyroll absorbed it. Crunchyroll started deleting everyone's purchased copies of Funimation content. So there are just so many situations that highlight how unprotected consumers are from companies being able to swoop into your digital library and just kind of take whatever they want without your consent, even if you've shelled out money for this. To the point where the notion of piracy is starting to feel morally correct, because as this individual said, if paying isn't owning, piracy isn't stealing.
I tried to find, there's a list of movies that I have that I try and find out in the wild. And there's just movies that I cannot find. They're just not online. I can't find them out in the wild. They're nowhere. Is it morally wrong to pirate those movies? Or keep looking like I'm fucking Indiana Jones?
Which garnered millions of views and hundreds of thousands of likes. And the good news is that this law that has been passed in California has already begun to have an effect on certain storefronts like, say, Steam. Now, I know a lot of people really like the Steam ecosystem and all of the features that it offers, but make no mistake, all of the Steam purchases that you've made are fully digital, and you do not own the vast majority of those games. There might be like a specific few that intentionally make it DRM free and the like, but in general, if there are licensing issues for certain games that you bought that force companies to have to remove it from your library, they absolutely can. If there are issues like Steam going down.
By the way, I'm gonna look through any games that I have purchased that it says that I don't own. I'm getting them. Oh, I'm getting them. And if they want to say something about it, I think I don't need to talk about that anymore.
Servers shutting down. If the service were to end, your entire library can absolutely disappear. Maybe this is an extreme scenario, but it's also not entirely impossible. And so you have to plan for a potential future where all of your digital purchases may go away for one reason or another.
Cyber attack, cyber warfare. That's all you need, because it can happen anywhere. They could be like, oh, millions upon millions of Americans use Steam. They're about to have a really bad day. All of their stuff's deleted. What are they gonna do? What are you gonna do when millions upon millions of people have their libraries deleted? Not the games deleted out of your library. I mean, like, removed from your account. And all of the history of them ever being on your account is removed. What are you gonna do? I know for me, that's thousands of dollars. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. It's like 15 years of gaming on PC.
We have seen such instances crop up myriad times, whether it's singular titles or entire libraries of content from specific companies. And so who's to say it won't happen to your PC games on Steam? And Steam being kind of the go-to storefront for PC gaming, you can imagine why it's important to begin tackling these issues now so that in the future we can have some semblance of safety, hopefully with laws catching up, allowing these protections to force companies to not be able to just take content away from us.
I know that if I'm going to continue using Steam, that from now on, when I buy a game, I'm going to have 2 copies. One from Steam, one elsewhere that I got from other means. Just in case. Just to have.
Allow us to, at the very least, download stuff and keep them before they go away, before they're delisted and the like. So, right here we have a report from Engadget who first noticed this. The headline of this article reads, Steam now tells gamers upfront that they're buying a license, not a game. So if you scroll down, you'll find something that this editor noticed, where when you open your shopping cart with items inside and before going to payment, a notice at the bottom right states, a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the product on Steam. Now, I think they need to go a step further and say you do not own this game when you buy it. This feels like the lightest way to tell someone that they're actually renting something for a long-term period of time.
So how do I own it? So how do I own it? How do I buy it? How do I actually buy these games? If I can't own them, if I'm only getting a license, how do I buy them? I can't. So I can't own them. So it's a live service. Correct? It is a live service. I can't own it, and it is a form of media that is being licensed to me. So if I have this license, I should be able to record it under the time shifting laws, correct? For like DVR and stuff, for to keep for later use, for personal use.
Indeterminate, that they don't actually own the purchase that they're about to make. This notice was not there before, and this was definitely Steam reacting to the passing of that California law that forces companies to outright say that you don't own something, or that you're just licensing something. So right here you can see a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the product on Steam. But it doesn't, it says you don't own the game you're about to buy without really saying you don't own the game you're about to buy. So I feel like a more direct disclosure would be better.
Right? Because this is saying that, like, oh, I'm buying the game and I get a license for it? That's cool. Because people don't know what that means. They'll look at that and they might even know what it means and just never think about what it means. Never look at it. They'll be like, oh, okay, I got a license for this? Why do I need a license for a game? Like, I have a license for a car? Nobody knows what that means. If I go and ask my roommate what it means to have that he has a license for a game rather than buying it, he's not going to know what that means. He's not going to care. He's going to keep buying the same games.
The language of this feels like the least transparent version of what it's actually saying, so that they don't actually have to say the thing blatantly in a way that might scare away customers, is what it feels like. But this does go to show that we are making some strides on this front. We are taking steps in the right direction. Laws, I think, need to forbid companies from taking stuff from players' digital libraries altogether, and they need to force companies to make it so that they aren't allowed to just make a digital product disappear from the face of the planet. Not only is that detrimental to those who have shelled out money for that product, but in terms of preservation of gaming history and history of digital content, that's just a really shitty thing. And you can see right here the amount of traction that this news has gained, because it feels like something's actually finally starting to be done about this issue. So Discussing Film tweeted about how Steam has now added a warning to customers that they're only buying a license for a game and don't actually own it. This is ahead of a new law that forbids digital storefronts selling games from using terms like buy unless they tell players that they're only buying a license. You can see 19.1 million views and hundreds of thousands of likes as of the recording of this video, and plenty of folks alarmed about.
True. I want a refund on all of the games that I purchased thinking that I owned them. I got tricked. And I think that we all need to band together and sue the fuck out of these companies until they release these until they make all these games DRM free. I'll take that at least. Just give us DRM free so we can just have the files.
About this and highlighting how physical media is superior as a result, but even physical media is just glorified digital media nowadays, where you still need to install the game or download stuff that basically
I disagree. I think that digital is superior. I just think that it is inferior right now because of the licensing crap and the fact that you can't actually have the file and access it.
makes it reliant on some kind of digital download that may go away, or there's still DRM elements that make it so that if a license were to be revoked, or if services for a game were to shut down and a company were to crumble and the ability to maintain the game would disappear, the physical media would still not save the game, or it would not protect you from potentially having the product being made inaccessible. So even physical media is a little shaky on that front, depending on the product. Other users highlighting here, I want a full refund on all the games I purchased where this disclaimer was not shown to me. And then here is one of the more popular comments here with almost 60,000 likes. If buying isn't owning, then pirating isn't stealing. A catchphrase that's gaining more and more traction as the truth is spread about what a lot of us have known for a while, but the masses may not necessarily put two and two together, that digital products, you just don't have any ownership or semblance of security of accessing it on a permanent basis over. And so the fact that we're starting to get these kinds of disclosures.
Imagine a world where they stop putting the old Xbox games on the new Xbox. Imagine that world. You'd be like, okay, last resort, I'll just get old Xbox. But it's been 50 years. You technically bought those games. You technically bought them. You did buy them. You just can't access them anymore because everything is shut down. The physical games are lost. They've degraded long ago, most of them. But let's say you do get your hands on a physical copy and you go to play it on an old Xbox. The old Xbox doesn't work because it's been 75 years since the Xbox came out at this point in this timeline that I'm speaking of. Think of another world where you have a super hard drive, a drive that lasts throughout the years, or you just keep moving a file from one drive to another over the years as they degrade, and you just keep that file, and it's DRM free, and you can just click it and play it as long as you got the software that'll run it, which I'm sure there will be software to run old games, because there always is and there always will be. That's what's gonna happen. It's either they're gonna make it DRM free, or we're gonna make it DRM free. You get me?
To really ensure that all customers are informed about what they're actually spending their money on and what that actually grants you in terms of access, and the fact that this is more of a long-term renting kind of situation rather than you actually buying something you get to keep forever is, I think, a positive thing. Hopefully the masses will be more informed about just how shitty digital quote-unquote ownership or digital purchases are, so that when these discussions crop up, they can gain more traction as the masses express, hopefully, their concerns about how we are headed towards a more digital future, and in turn, we're headed towards a future where the media that we buy is no longer really guaranteed to be permanent or within our control to be accessible and permanent, which makes digital ownership a far less ideal form of media consumption than what it used to be before, where you'd buy a VHS, a DVD, a Blu-ray, you name it, and you'd feel like, this is something that as long as I take care of it and as long as I have it, it's mine, and I can access it forever, and I can harken back to it whenever. Slowly but surely, we are 100% losing that, and not even beloved platforms like Steam can be excused on this front. Now, one platform that has been able to take advantage of this to take some free shots is none other than GOG, and frankly, they have every right to take these shots because It's true. When you download a game from GOG digitally, as long as you protect that installer file, you can do whatever you want with it. You can install the game whenever, whether you have online access or not. You can copy and paste it. You can distribute. You can do what it feels like actual digital ownership, which is why when IGN reported on this new law that will...
I just wish they were friendlier with Linux. If they were friendlier with Linux, I would 100% consider switching to GOG, because most of the games that I play are already on GOG anyway. I just also don't want to have to rebuy a lot of those games, but I will, if it means that I actually get to keep them.
Force storefronts to admit that you don't actually own your digital purchases. GOG was cheeky and retweeted this and responded with, if only there was a storefront that actually lets you own your games, ... And you can see this garnered a lot of traction and a lot of positivity, 2 million views, tens of thousands of likes. Now, some people were quick to point out that if you look at GOG's end license user agreement, you'll find the section titled Ownership of GOG Services and Intellectual Property Rights. It does say here that GOG content is owned by its developers/publishers and licensed by us. But because of the way GOG works, because it is DRM free, and because you get to download installers that are isolated from any sort of like DRM or online protection, any sort of like verification requirements, it's as good as ownership. You know what I mean? Like, legally speaking, you are still licensing the thing, but by the nature of how GOG works and the way you download installers from their storefront, you might as well own the thing. You know, you can do what you want with it, and it literally cannot be taken away from you as soon as the installer is downloaded and safe within some kind of storage device.
That doesn't stop companies from just shutting down the service, though. If you buy the game and it is a service-based game, even if you got the installer, if they shut down the service, then it's just not going to work. And that needs to not happen also.
GOG was quick to make this clarification by responding to their own tweet and saying, we've seen some discussions regarding this tweet, so let us clarify. When we said we let you own your games, we meant that no matter what happens, whether it's licensing issues, storefronts shutting down, or even the zombie apocalypse cutting off your internet, you'll still be able to play them thanks to our offline installers. We want to ensure your gaming legacy is always in your hands, not ours. My opinion is that laws eventually need to get to a point where it forces all digital storefronts to enact this particular model where you are allowed to download and permanently digitally keep the file without it being dependent on some kind of verification or check or DRM or whatever.
And they're worried about piracy, that's why they don't do it. But it's just driving more people to piracy. Like me, because I don't want to pirate games. I really don't, and I don't. I do not pirate games. I buy everything on Steam.
We get to that point where all stores are basically like GOG in terms of how you download installers that are then freely accessible forever as long as that file is maintained. I think that's the ideal future of digital ownership or digital purchases, digital storefronts. Hopefully GOG gains tons of success from this so that the message is sent that this is the model that people actually desire. GOG has every right to take shots here because, yeah, they've been on the right side of history with this one and the way things work with how their storefront allows you permanent access to those digital purchases if those files are protected. GOG then took it a step further by adding their own notice when you are purchasing games, when you add them to your cart. On Steam, you'll see a message that is not ideal, that a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the product on Steam. It does not grant ownership or a semblance of permanent access. Whereas GOG is able to fully guarantee that a purchase of a digital product on GOG grants you its offline installers, which cannot be taken away from you, which you have full autonomy over. So it doesn't say that you own the products because that's...
But what if you give it to, like, 30 people at a college? Who's doing that? Who's giving Cyberpunk to 30 people at a college? Nobody's doing that. What they're really worried about is people who are willing to pay like $10, $20 for, let's use example Cyberpunk again, for Cyberpunk, to get a copy of Cyberpunk. And those people are throwaways. Those are throwaway players. They're not going to play that game for long. They're not going to buy the merch because they're poor. or they just don't care enough. Usually they're poor though, so they're not going to make you a bunch of money. Why would you even care about those people? Just let them be. And there are some people that are assholes that just want to pirate everything, but that is not even a significant amount. Most people don't want to be bothered. Most people want the easy way. But if services start failing more and more, like we've been seeing, and it seems like they're going to be failing more and more in the future, and just being shut down randomly, sometimes even day one. Sometimes they don't even make it to the light of the day.
In terms of legal terms, incorrect, but you basically own the product. You know what I mean? You actually are able to access it forever as long as the integrity of that installer you download is maintained for as long as you want to maintain it for. Current laws of like forcing companies to disclose that you don't actually own your digital purchases is a good thing, and it's a good first step. It doesn't change the fact that ultimately all we have done right now is to force companies to disclose that they're doing something morally questionable rather than...
Oh, another thing. If they have the digital copy that's pirated, what if they run out of room and they need to delete it? Then they won't have it anymore. It's gone forever. And some of us like to buy things just to say that we bought it. Some of us like to buy things because our friends bought it. I don't care that my brother bought a game, or if my brother buys a really, really good game, I don't want to just keep playing his. I want that game. I want it in my collection. I want to say that I had this game and I played it, and I get to keep the save files. Nobody really wants to pirate. Well, most people really don't want to pirate. They just want better service. They want whatever is the easiest and whatever costs the least.
Tackling the morally questionable practice itself, what GOG has done here is go for the morally correct option from the outset, whereas other digital storefronts have decided to take advantage of laws not being able to stop them from essentially having full autonomy over your digital library. And the hope is that as this issue becomes more widespread, as awareness spreads, because disclosures are being forced upon by laws, the hope is that the awareness continues, and so the issue continues to be tackled until the hopeful eventuality that we get to here where all storefronts will allow you to have access to offline installers that cannot be taken away from you. Hopefully this will become the norm and not the exception.
I don't think that's going to happen until people stop using the other services. Like when people stop using the Play Store, people stop using Steam, start going to places like GOG. That's when we'll start seeing changes. But here's the where it starts to get bad. If everybody starts using GOG, then other people outside of GOG are going to start to notice, and they're going to try and get their fingers in GOG. They're just do their grubby little fingers, try and mess things up for them, use laws, sue them.
But I suppose only time will tell how the future will pan out and what it holds for us. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Steam's new disclosure and what you think laws need to head towards in order to pave a road for a future where digital purchases actually feel safe and secure, and like those purchases are actually permanent, and like your autonomy and sense of ownership over your purchase of a digital product feels safe and secure. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
So either make it DRM free, or make it like DVR, where you can record it for personal use, for temporary personal use. If you have purchased the license, like you're able to copy it, which is basically DRM free. Just make it DRM free, man. That's all you got to do. It's not that hard. It's like you just change a sentence. It'd probably take like 10 years because of all the bureaucracy, though. Just change one freaking law, one sentence in the law, one word. All you have to do is put in DRM free, and games are DRM free. But there are too many big companies that are going to be throwing money into this to make that not happen, and that's why we're at this point. And that's why Microsoft is able to have a storefront inside of Play Store, which is what Epic got kicked out of Play Store for in the first place, and Apple. Now there's like a straight up law about it. It just shows to go, yeah.